The ranking member, Mr. Ackerman, for 3.5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Until recently, and unlike its Arab neighbors, Lebanon had a democratically elected government that should have had a mandate to govern. But like all of its regional neighbors except for Israel, Lebanon has suffered from a powerful and unaccountable element of its society acting above and beyond the law. What was different in the Lebanese case was that this unaccountable few didn't occupy or use the institutions of the state in order to coerce, in order to repress, in order to dominate their political opponents. Instead, they just threatened them and then killed them. No one should forget that before the current crisis, before the insurrection of May 2008, before the presidential succession crisis and the lockout of Parliament, Hezbollah and its Iranian and Syrian allies engaged in a campaign of assassinations against Lebanese parliamentarians and journalists that began in 2005 with the murder of former Prime Minister Rafiq Hariri. Long before the recent backroom coup, Hezbollah set itself above the law and outside the reach of the government. Hezbollah has for years systematically weakened Lebanon's government and continually undermined Lebanon's sovereignty. It has made Lebanon a regional time bomb by developing more than 40,000 Syrian and Iranian artillery rockets and advanced surface-to-surface missiles, all aimed at Israel, and all in order to shield Iran's illicit nuclear weapons program. Tragically, the people of Lebanon are now hostages. Like the captive nations of Eastern Europe during the Cold War, their hearts are free, but their government has colluded with a foreign power to put them in chains. The United States must continue to advocate for Lebanon's sovereignty and for the restoration of a legitimate government. We must continue to support and sustain the Special Tribunal for Lebanon and keep faith with all of the Lebanese people who want justice for their murdered countrymen and their former Prime Minister. America must continue to insist on the implementation of all relevant UN Security Council resolutions, and we must speak out clearly against the flood of illegal and destabilizing Syrian and Iranian arms going into Lebanon. And finally, we need to be clear with the government of Lebanon that it bears the burden of demonstrating that it truly serves the people of Lebanon and that it will keep peace inside Lebanon and on Lebanon's borders, and that it is not and will not either be a flunky for the Ayatollahs in Tehran or for the dictator in Damascus. Until there is clear evidence that Beirut has made these choices, I believe we have no other alternative but to suspend all of our assistance programs to Lebanon. We have many urgent priorities in the Middle East. Helping Iran, helping Syria, and helping Hezbollah maintain a facade of Lebanese independence is not one of them. Thank you, Madam Chair. I yield back the ballot.
Thank you, Mr. Ackerman. Thank you.
Are we considering withholding aid from Lebanon?
As I mentioned earlier in response to Mr. Berman's question, I think that we obviously keep issues of assistance under review. Right now, we're focusing on trying to encourage all of the parties, including the Prime Minister-designate, to make sure we have an inclusive government that meets its obligations. So long as that continues, and at least up till now, that has not been, the tribunal has not been undermined, we are continuing our assistance. But obviously, we will have to keep that under review and look at the circumstances as they emerge.
I thank the Chair for the extension of time.